debating how to start my conversations would be, I've heard of bone sugar in I am 31, 31, and I guess I will because it puts me to think, and I am on the outside, whatever in the outside. Thinking is very refreshing, but cannot be quantized based on I don't know, things of these. It can be, but it revealed those things already, so we will move on. Now, sticking to that generational issue of which that kind of caused me to be able to have kids. And I do have my thing here. I'm dealing with that part. I guess I would do that. There, stick it in there if it's not being seen. I guess I have to do, I guess I do that part, and there it is. And then I just put that cover there and put it there. So, having, what is living? I would say, I know evolution does this there, and that is putting it backwards. Can you say you're regressing in life? Possibly, if you were something else other than human, you could regress. If you are human, you evolve. And what causes man to be human? It's just this, just what I'm doing. That causes man to be human, meaning that it puts you to do something of this nature, and that's what you're doing. And when you have to deal with it in a way that is very attente, it thinks correct, but I, extremes perhaps would it speak coming from a heavenly point of view, and when it hits, it becomes embarrassing. And I guess the agenda just comes naturally when you're of a certain news, and the news kind of comes to this part, and that part carries us away from our generation, which is when you are birthed, it evolves. That's why when it regresses, it pelts, and when it pelts and examines that regression, and if that regression seeks that type of blessings of embarrassments, then there's a faultive correction immediate. So it would say that it has to be able to do this, not it grinds, and it decides I don't want to stop. And whatever the purpose is hatred. That is not what evolution is about, and that's what's inquietant. So this is where the little Phoebe is at, the grown Phoebe. Now you can see that's my little cubicle over there, part there, and that's part there, that's there, right there, and things that way. Now, once we get back there, you would know that when she hits 23 years old, she was not yet in that generation, 11th and 12th, of herself and her children, her children's children. In other words, she was still here. And here would be as if she's still in that little cubicle, that little furnace that he birthed her before it fused and became that zygote. And goes that way, forms that bridge, and there she will be creative. Once these things were done, she would have to kind of turn a little bit, which is what she did, kind of go to school and get certain things. And oftentimes, I wouldn't say the career leads you there when it comes to this news. It kind of carries. It carries this way, that way, that way, that way. And when it does, and it's forbidden, after you had a Facebook of 5,000 contacts more, and just disappears, potential spam. Somebody's trying to call me potential spam. So And once it does it that way, it has to be the grinding decided not to stop. So it just becomes nonchalant, and that has to be gone, and that's it. Now, once I get to those type of things, in other words, where in Guyana, if I left Guyana, say at 15, where in Guyana would that be while she is this way? Would be by a church, by school, by, I don't know, a Pathfinder club, or etc. Or I don't know, traveling with her grandmother. And as a child, she would travel to where her grandma family were, Britannia. She's not from Britannia, based on this of the child. So it would say where they were from. And if I traveled to Bartica with her, then I was this way and not that part. So if there were any spinnings in Bartica with forges, it was a 4G, and that 4G has to be in someplace else. And it's suspecting it could be right on this terrain, which the investigation will get this way. So she traveled to the 63 beach with her grandma, and she would be this way, and it could have not been able to spin because of the grandma. At the church baptismal pool, it could have been this way, and that was not being able to spin because of that, the chanson, that org. And once that has been concluded, I can say, what is it? So let's come to church a bit later before I get to what is it. So it will say at the market, it's an evolution, meaning that you purchase at the market. And that can be considered this, and not all of that part, but it would say we have a lot of liars on the planet, so these type of things has to be denounced. So the investigation, let's see if they're not putting her, I cannot say rats, but I had a vision of that type of rat, of how the rat of the planet crumbled, and puts itself here so that the child could see that part and comes in. I guess it comes to this part of how it analyzes and not man. You cannot do so. In other words, part of that end now with the two eyes on it, and that end penetrates and comes in so that we can understand it better. So once we get that type of purchase, and she plays and runs, she had her guava tree, and that will be considered the two eyes. But that type of spinning is very essential for this type of talk today. Why it could pick and examine those things based on the Guyanese, based on the child. As a child, and examines these things with this part of her, not yet in that generation of her, the future of her. Could man have anticipated that? It seems that they probably could not, based on how the child, ooh, that's why. But it had a hint of a trunk. And oftentimes if it slammed against her this way, like a this way, she could have it this right way and leave a sear there with hints of cups. And never knew so, just had a lot of fun and enjoyed that type of life, but still was here. In other words, where were those cups? In the same position as the child before she was born, and waits to emerge or many years later. Now, when those things are happening, what do? Man lives. Cannot speak of that type of creation yet. I am at what is it? And oftentimes, what is it is meaning a prereq to getting there. Why it wants to jump, and this of that child's life, based on her stairs, cannot go past those two flights of stairs. Now, oftentimes, when it gets to that N type, it has to be able to have this of her. Wherever you go, you're going to find that type of genetic testing. How she did not know is because she lived this way based on the nose. So the nose, I don't know, cannot be. I have seeked based on, you you can say, visions this way, and could have been sending the mom in places that she's not supposed to have touched down. So those things has to be able to register you and get to you, get out, not get to you. So the threats has to be real so I could get that part and know, get, and then gets back to this part of the child. As a child, so when she got on the plane at 15, she was this way. And when she touched down in John F. Kennedy Airport, she was this way also. When she gets to that home, she was this way. When she left that home, she was this way. When she flew there and she mumbled about that type of boy, she was this way. That other type of British boy, she was this way. And when she would become this way, in other words, lacking, meaning that this way tells the heavens that we are liars and has to be maintained by an applaudissement. Once we're getting it, understanding it is not really necessary for the child. So if she slips, she kind of gets that part of her. In other words, it's not a land where she can get this of herself, which is the fundament of life. And that's basically what, instead of telling you because you get an itch on your feet, you have to stay in this land. If not, they'll ship them back to Africa. Go. And Poland and Romania, Russia, wherever you're from. And the land is seeking that part based on that type of evolution. And when it seeks it, it can seek it from the time you landed in the land, and know so by vising descendants that are not connu and is roaming around themselves. So once these things are done, you have to sense that if you're going to set up based on a nothingness, then the nothingness becomes nothingless until it ceases. And if it decided that this, then it kind of backs out to say, I am not at what is it. And it deals with this, the girl at 23 was this way. Now that way could be a massive loop. A loop is called something that generates hertz. And what it just generates that hertz, the tear is actually this way in that perfection and waits. Once she gets to this type of hertz, it puts the tear to screw itself. Why? It doesn't finish. It's constantly the child to get to that point, and she's not getting there, and she's 57 today. So it has to be able to get there. That's unfortunate for those who are seeking death of that type of person. You should be quite ashamed of yourself, and it will become that type of shame. Get. Now, once we get to this part of the child, and it seeks to generate, what it will do is get her to that evolution point. So that evolution point could be this, and once it does, and people gets it, they backed out. But some did not back out and wait after to get the lady in a very degraded fashion, that way, constantly, and once it does, it hits that mental, and we would know this. Now, once we get that, are we seeking it based on what you are not? Possibly. So you have to say wherever her feet treaded and bore the kids, that's where she have become of that generation. And in other words, her type of dad would be this of her, and it just does this to her. So once it does it, it kind of, once she gets to this, he's this way, and once that generation is imminent and goes and becomes that generation, and he goes. Now, because of the mental, the girl stops there, not to evaluate them. I'm still on that journey, and I don't know where that's going to take me. I didn't create that bond on the earth, but could have it in the mental, and that's what's seizing. If I did it in the mental and did this part, then I'm feeling that pressure, and that pressure cannot be relieved, and it gives that type of pain. And I did not seek in my mental for Americans to be close to me, and I did not seek La France either, but I did not seek, perhaps I probably seeked Greece, and I probably seeked Ibiza, probably even Barcelona, and these are the things that are creating the frivolities of the waves of this type of hurts that are crushing to the earth to avoid those things. And mentally speaking, the prophecy was not revealed yet based on, I don't know if it's the tablets, these things were not revealed yet, but it's getting this part and focusing on the child. And once these things are done, the mental is letting me know that there's something special to see, come back and deal with it, not just. And once I do that part, I was kind of released, get back this way, get this part of myself, this part of myself, and not this part of myself. In other words, something that pelts like a slingshot. And once it does this part, it pelts there, relieves itself, and it gets this. Can it be that type of prophecy? Probably. That could be something that is very dangerous for man this way, but cannot get to this at all based on that. So that part, after a while, ceases, takes the money, gets rid of the money, gets rid of the whatever I have to go through in these government places until they are crushed completely. And once they have been crushed, then it gets in there. What are you seeking? Have you been in a contradiction with the ancient Rome or ancient Constantinople? Up, I felt that part. And are you seeking to seize that opportunity with this Negro mom to get your life in order when I cannot do so, and surrenders at that thought? Now, once we get to that and we understand when does this start, which is her generation, based on her calendar, I would mentalize that part. And as I travel in Guyana, it was revealed to the news and those type of things. I grasp quicker based on this absence of schooling. In other words, and it gets to the child. So it would get to that part there based on that news, and that news would reveal to her of a potential danger of where is that your family, and then her heart would cry, cannot do so, cannot move forward, and then she would herself. Now once those things happen to her in her mental, which is in that aspect of that of nature, to her grandmother, and wraps quickly and gets those things done because of the evil of man. Why the noses are eviler than ever. So it would say that type of prophecy sees these things and can put it back. So those things have to. So once she rise in Greece, that's all she needed to know, that we cannot clear this and have to be pelted back home to Guyana, and never knew that part. So that will say, how is she going to deal with it? Not today. She will deal, what is it? And I could say, well, it could be a kuto. And the kuto could reveal how it deals with this, how it turns. And at kuto could say, can I fall? Sure, if you let it go, it will fall. But I did not let it fall and would put it that way. And as the kuto turns, I guess I did it to the paraply of I guess the feet of that chosen girl. We haven't gotten to there yet, but just call me special for now for being able to explain these things about who I am in order to get that help. Why? Because I kind of hurts. I get the hurts. It's potentially knows. So if it lets go today, I cannot accept it. but could know that it was dealing with these things from embarrassments. So it would say, this you did not know. So it goes back but fits in with the nose, and that's all it does. So when it fits in the nose, man is not allowed to know it. Why? Not understanding where these things are coming from, based on stealing that person or trying to impersonate that person's life in the United States, and becomes a crashing economy because of it. So you would say that this became Earth based on this Planchu and could be in trouble. I could say this becomes something that say, hey, and the camera cannot take it. So it comes back and she smells it and it doesn't have a smell. So it puts it back here, right there, and continues to speak. So as she speaks, she reveals herself, the child, to just her cubs when they were born of that her if I do this part, it goes to the nose, and if I do that part, it goes to the nose. So Mo, where she had her firstborn, and her secondborn was Arnold Briard in Nogent-sur-Marne, and this is France. Now, once they were born there, this applies to them also, but it's on the nose of the mom based on she walks this way, but you're not allowed to look at the woman. So it would do it that way. So, and this dynasty based on the nose and based on the grandmother has to get it. It's of their seeds. So once we have discussed it, we're not going to come back. It's their seeds. This is why she mentalizes it more than live it based on seeing he and ha ha ha. Now once these things has been and it's she's just that mystical, this type of person, and this type of knows also. So when I say what is it, I can proceed to say what is it, and I could say at, and then at delivers these things back to this dynasty where it actually destroys it. It cannot keep it based on even Facebook because of the dishonesty of the nose. What is it of that land of Greece that you're seeking to constantly regenerate me for? And I cannot go back to the hole that I came from. I have to get older. So this would say out there, damages based on taking the box off the woman, causing the mother to stay. And this is you, white people. This is not me, the black woman. And you have to say the nose, when she finishes this type of skyline, cannot reveal those things. And by the next day, you would come with some type of white bugger man and trying to get to the child. I have to tell you these things plainly because you're not understanding that you're being destroyed. You are being destroyed. So it gets back to that part when she becomes generational with her family, and oftentimes can you not deny them? These are the questions that the Greeks are asking based on having philosophers. If you're giving a covenant of somebody and you're seeking to chop that person by seeking up country, are you going to have sex with that woman? Then that person, like Alexandria the Great, is not going to be happy about question and seeks to spread himself, and by the time he gets back in, he's gone, and oftentimes he's not coming this way fully. So I don't know why, mystically speaking, in this mental, it's appearing to the child that way, and it's not based on that type of entity. Has to wait. So I cannot deal with this type of person. Why? Because this could seek to kill, but when you're seeking to kill, I have to determine this here of who I'm dealing with, and since that, am I seeing you 20 years later, and am I seeing you in a congregation seeking to get to me as a bull and wants to eat me out? That's a problem. And I could say, based on this magazine called Gabe's, all of the KCA have these type of noses, and there's some that have the buttocks based on this missing, and some that are in these type of hotels that have teethless mouths. So it puts these things out there. So what is seeking here is when I get to this generation, I have to see how are we going to move ahead with ourselves. Are we faced with a cutting to put us away from each other based on I cannot see, for example, my granddaughter, or I cannot deal with it. Getting used to it is not a probability based on this type of this type of dynasty, but it's a challenge, you could say. It's something that is whatever. So I am not there. I am just saying what is it at. So at is not part of this generation of the 11th and 12th. And I would say what I would consider to be it, this here, and this would be something that it's, and when it's something of that part, then it kind of puts us in a very curious mind. What is that, Mom? And I would say, okay, let me get to this part here. And I would say, when you get it close, and we probably did it quickly, we're seeing these type of stems, and what is in the stem would be that this type of the backbone. So the backbone can go this way with the leaf, but I did not do so. So it would put the leaf this way. We could see the stem and the backbones, which is, I don't know, that's the center. So when it does it this way, it kind of gets that way, and that way, and this way, and so it kind of takes the child away from what is this here. So what is this here says, are we seeing it broken? I would say this cannot be washed out. So it seeks to put it back. And oftentimes, when it comes from a pine stand of view, which is the Greeks, they're seeking, well, how? So I don't know, when you go to Greece, all you're seeing is empty box and just the pillion. So if you're called to do this part, then what it does, you just slide away, up, you go to there and sit. So it will say, am I doing your job and has to be punished? Perhaps. So I would get back to this part, and then I would look at this part and examine what this is. And this would be, I don't know, I'm seeing it that way. Chanson, but is it Mendal? Probably not today. So when it's chanson, then it says, what is it? Chanson, and I'm getting chanson this way. So this way would kind of get you to a position, and I would say, well, I probably showed a hand of this here. So we would be probably a hand of this here, which would be the chanson. And when we're getting this part here, then it's demanding chanson. So chanson would be something, boom, 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 and gets to that. No, we cannot mentally fit that in because of this of us. So it gets to this up go, and it gets to Akuto. So the mom would say, well, I have to make a chanson of Kuto and put it in the book and leave the rest of it. So once I get to that part, I have my generation and knows my generation and knows that I have my son, my daughter, granddaughter, and knows that that part there cringes of how she seeks to deal with this 11th and 12th generation of this dynasty and has to obey. Now once it does it this way, it did that before and catches the hurts already. So the hurts cannot be revealed, but the hint would be hurts right here. So this land is accused of it and nobody else, and cannot get to the second one that way, and that way would be chanson. So once I get chanson, it doesn't reveal chanson, then it gets it with the C that way. And once I get to this type of hertz, it gets it with that this part here, which is that of this here. So I guess the other one waits, and that's where she would catch just two, and that was wiped out just by that there. So I suppose in my video it evolutionized based on Constantinople that way, and senses that it probably did but cannot fathom those things. If it and she does that part, then that part goes to the devil, whatever you're calling the devil, and then she goes this part to get back to of herself. In other words, a very evolutionized state of not seeking that which was. In other words, that of which those type of Greeks mentalize. They're not to be examined. They're just very strange pop based on Zeus's of this type of darkness. I guess it's the grade A, and it's far from it based on who are they now. But it would say cannot have any parts to do with that pop, and that's why mom would kind of be concerned about the noses having to be buried there based on this mental. So the mental didn't get there yet, and it could shut the door, but based on this dynasty of which I didn't mentalize this way, of how they can be provocative, of how it pelts well and comes in and themselves, and that's her. That's that little child that we have born. Now, oftentimes, not only does it feed well, it presents well and was discredibilized and hated upon. So, with that, up goes and allow the girl to stay with him. So that type of taken away was with this of her. Cannot be this of her. In other words, how it drives. And if it did, then that is not happening. Not. It happened with, and once it's hidden, then I have to kind of sense that it puts it with Greeks to kill that woman. And once this dynasty is aware of that, it breaks up and it puts this away, and up it goes again, so that it's investigated. What are you wanting from little Phoebe, from the Tueson's granddaughter? And I have no speculations about that. I guess the mental speaks for itself. And once that is, I am sensing that it gravitates right back to that cocoon where it waits for mom this way to grab her this way, and that suits the mom and it takes care of the mom and have her lungs that way. And whatever we are in 11th and 12th generations cannot fathom that of which Greek seeks. That to create a hatred of that pop and the rest of the pop of the world based on whiteism, based on how this drive of which you were trying to take me from my cub by delivering me to somewhere I don't know where. Oftentimes, if you see, it was trying to deliver her to this based on a conniving way against a French, and could not do so. It tells you from that age you cannot do so, and you still persisted, and this knows up, and now you're probably sensing that the hatred is sweet. It's so sweet that I can favor my family on that side no matter what. And if you're dealing with that part, then 11th and 12th cannot allow you to access that mom anymore and allow her to get back there and probably some know a bit. Now, with that being said, I kind of lingers because I'm feeling the vibe, and I'm feeling that, yes, that smoke. And once we know that these things cannot phantom, if I say you will never know, it's in that vibe and has something of this going on. In other words, whatever that type of hell seeked and didn't accept that, it came fully. And a lot of times, it has nothing to do with that dynasty. It has a way of dealing with these things like it was. That you see the husband or the mari of her based on had a husband. No, you did not see so. So it was had to be and put her to that level of mediocrity of hatred. So that's and puts it right there in the 11th and 12th. Now, once you're seeking those things again, the girl gets to rock her chair. That's where it all on and enjoy the scenery. And once it senses those type of things and seeks to flee, up, gone, based on I know you not. Now it will say that if you're sensing that you are needing, and I'm getting out of the 11th and 12th, but I'm just letting my cubs know how cantankerous I have become. I probably was as a child a bit, but was with her pup in that crazy environment. But we are going to have fun with this part as it senses it. So it just tells that it revindicated itself, it seems, with the 11th and 12th, and it's pulls in. So once it does, this is what was the hatred. Why are you seeking those things? Why did you seek it? You cannot blame a Greek man because of the bee, and knows it's not our fault. So everything else goes, and Mama ceases now. And obviously, I have to, I do, but it kind of fortifies that of the child so well that it takes her to that rocking chair where she probably can see it with the mystics, with that mental, and not with the human touch. So it says I can deal with it only 11s and 12s with just the child because of that cough. So we are dealing with, what is it? The cough. The cough, that cough. This right here. And once we're dealing with the cough, we have to kind of back out and allow her to get a little rest, which probably isn't possible. Why the Greeks have distorted this. Now, if I did it this way, at the time they distorted it this way, and when they distorted it this way, it creates things that are nasty towards this world, and they have accepted that nastiness and seeks whatever. So you have to sense that it pulls when it's time to get this hell, whatever this is. I don't know. I did it this way. So if that's the way the white man chooses to do so, they will lose their feet. 11th and 12th say, stay out of my life. I am not going to play with the white man or any whiteism. I don't need your country. You need my country. So that type of mental says the Greeks leak. Now, if you're seeking that friendship, then I have to chop you. So the Americans are there to stop the choppings. I cannot find that lawyer yet this way, but I would say we are on that route based on what I've reviewed today, and because of that part, I kind of pitched it out there and say, okay, bonjour, au revoir.